Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please do make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X. And you can also text the word collaboration or feature me to 917-575-2321. Again, that number is 917-575-2321. We have such a great show lined up for you today. As usual, a mix of celebrities, impressive citizens, pro athletes, and a ton of fun. Today's guests are so impressive and VIP. We have Puerto Rico's very own first female rower, Veronica Toro. She's going to be joining us live from the Tokyo Olympics. We have Daphne, Barak, and Bill Gunasti. They're also going to be coming on. Daphne is an Israeli-American documentary filmmaker and a film and TV producer. She's a celebrity interviewer and an author. Bill Gunasti, he's also an author and a film producer, a geopolitical subject matter expert specializing in socioeconomic military strategies. And together they have co-authored Struggling for One America, Trump versus Hollywood, which is also a movie. Daphne directed it and conducted interviews with 24 pro and anti-Trump Hollywood stars, musicians, rappers, and celebrities, while Bill produced it. And they say that the book is not about being a Republican nor a Democrat, but rather it explores the divide that exists within our nation and why. They explore taboo and really look under Hollywood and Washington's hood. You'll be shocked to hear some of the most famous actors and what they've had to say and what politicians have also told them behind closed doors. They're going to be coming on in a few with that scoop. Now, Bice Cucina, everyone come out and get your butts to Bice. If you have not already heard of this amazing franchise, you should. I love supporting New York-based businesses, and they have a location in Midtown, another one in Soho that they just opened up on Watts Street, one in Palm Beach, in Naples, Orlando, geez Louise, the list keeps going on and on. While the rest of the restaurants closed down during the pandemic, Bice kept going like the Energizer Bunny because Peter Gramaris is managing partner at Bice Cucina Restaurant Group. He is a very savvy entrepreneur, co-founder of the very famous Tipsy Girl Wines, and a home builder, a true New Yorker, if you will. While Peter continues to generate dishes in Soho, now with his brand new Bice Cucina locations, we're going to be chatting with him in a bit. Here to get your tummy ready to rumble are some really interesting food facts. Did you guys know that bananas are berries? So are eggplants. Botanically speaking, for a fruit to be considered a berry, it needs to have seeds on the inside, 2 or more, and to be derived from one flower with only one ovary. How's that? Sylvester Graham invented graham crackers to quell sexual urges. It turns out that Sylvester Graham really had a thing against sexual desire and thought whole wheat could help control it. Who would have known? Flaming hot Cheetos were invented by a janitor who was working in the Frito-Lay plant. Richard Montanez pitched his idea to Frito-Lay's CEO in 1976 and went on to become an executive vice president at Pepsi-Cola North America, and Fox Searchlight Pictures is making a movie about his life. And Pizza Hut, we all love Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut used to be the biggest purchaser of kale in the US. What? Until the kale craze took off in 2012. Now, Pizza Hut used them as a garnish for their salad bars. What a waste of kale. The US government banned sliced bread for a couple of months in 1943. Did you know that? The ban was aimed at affecting economies in the manufacture of bread and the use of paper, according to a New York Times article at the time. But many housewives complained and the savings weren't significant enough, so the ban was lifted. See, power of women. There we go again. Honey never goes bad. Bacteria and microorganisms that spoil food need moisture to survive, and honey contains very little water. To make sure it doesn't get spoiled through, you need to store it and seal it in a dry place, though. So just remember that. I love those knowledge dumps, especially food related. And welcoming to the sponsor list, we have Tempest. Tempest is the next generation of engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. And with Tempest, brands have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and so much more. Tempest, well, the time is now. Engage and earn. Can't wait to explore that and see what they have underneath their belt. Lots of heavy hitters and celebrities involved in that Burkan World project. And a big shout out to Shahal Khan of Burkan World and Gary Fowler. They will be regular contributors on my segment that I like to call My Digital World. Very excited to have them on next Saturday. And a few shows back, we spoke about how fashion designer Helen Yarmak has joined the NFT craze. Non-fungible tokens are all the rage. And to remind you, an NFT makes a digital file like a video or photo unique. Think of it as a certificate of authenticity for digital files. Because digital files can be copied, they aren't really that special. But when you make the file into an NFT using blockchain verification, it becomes unique and quite exclusive. Ownership can now be proven, and people are loving them. So in a world where so much content is available for free, NFTs add a layer that gives this content value. And Helen Yarmak is one of the very first to enter the digital market with an NFT inspired by her one-of-a-kind unique jewelry line. Helen Yarmak's Paraiba Empress ring is a stunning one-of-a-kind masterpiece. At a staggering 158 carats, the Empress ring contains one of the largest Paraiba stones in the world, beautifully set among a sparkling diamond and gold setting, one of the rarest and most precious stones in the world, making it a perfect centerpiece for an NFT offering. Check her out at helanyarmak.com. Now, Veronica Toro Arana joining us live from Tokyo. We will find out now exactly how this Stanford med student became Puerto Rico's first female rower. She decided to postpone medical school and her dream of becoming a pediatric cardiothoracic surgeon to live out this rowing dream. She'll be joining me from Tokyo in just a few minutes. And I love it that she hopes that she can set an example for Puerto Rican girls and women interested in rowing. I can't wait to hear her story and share her strength with the world, because Lord knows we all need some feel-good stories at the moment. Stay tuned for this exclusive interview up next with Puerto Rican's very own Olympic rower, Veronica Toro, live from the Tokyo Olympics. You're listening to A Moment of Zen. I am your host, Zen Sams, right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
Zen is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Bice Cucina in Midtown Manhattan, Revere Securities, and Helen Yarmak International. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, welcoming to the show, we have a restaurateur and managing partner of Bice Cucina, Peter Gramaris. And here in the heart of NYC, Peter continues to generate dishes not only in Midtown, but now in Soho with his brand new Bice Cucina location. Now, the COVID baby boom that many people predicted last year has not happened, but another kind of baby boom is underway. Restaurants and food businesses have been born during the pandemic at a rate that almost no one predicted a year ago, when dining rooms across the United States were ordered to close. And according to a survey of operators conducted by the National Restaurant Association, 17% of restaurants in the United States had closed permanently or long-term by December 1. Many were victims of the enormous shift in household food spending brought on by the pandemic, which basically redirected money that had been used for eating out toward groceries, delivery, and takeout. And after a steep plunge that reached its lowest point last April, openings have bounced back nearly to pre-pandemic levels, according to a year-end analysis by Yelp. The company reported that 18,000 207 restaurants and food businesses were first listed on its service during the last 3 months of 2020, just 4% less than in the same period in 2019. In one category, grab-and-go services, including food trucks and bakeries, new listings even went up. Now, Bice Cucina is sure to impress you and your friends. Peter is an entrepreneur, co-founder of the very famous Tipsy Girl Wines, a home builder, a New Yorker, but more importantly, he's my dear friend, and he's an all-around great guy, always at the pulse and heart of all things NYC. Now, he just opened his second Bice Cucina. He is joining us right now, live from Soho. Hello, superstar. A huge congratulations. Welcome, Peter.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zan. Always nice to see your beautiful face first thing in the morning. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited when we get to chit chat because, first of all, we have so much in common. I love to always come out and hang out. We talk business, we talk politics, we talk friends, we talk family. I truly love every dish at your restaurant. But when I saw how hard you work, even when I come there and I'm sitting at the bar quietly enjoying my lunch, and you're, between the flower beds, planting your flowers outside, running in the kitchen, tasting the food, you are hands-on. There's nothing you can do. And yet here you are. You managed to open a second location. So that's a huge accomplishment. What was the biggest challenge in opening the Soho location?
So, the pandemic really hurt everybody, right? It was a scary time, probably the scariest time in our history. The toughest thing was trying to negotiate with the landlords, right? Because you wanted to stay in business, you don't want to get evicted. And, the landlords all said the same thing. Well, it's not our fault. We didn't do anything wrong, because we're telling the landlords, hey, listen, it's not our fault. We can't pay the rent. We can't use the space. And he's saying, well, it's not our fault. You can't use the space. There was a catch-22 to it. So the key was to have a landlord that would negotiate with you and value your business. And we were very lucky in that aspect. And, kind of our name and our recognition and the fact that we are a pretty big brand, the landlords were more willing to negotiate with you. So, we had a lot of luck in that part.
Well, that makes me feel good because usually landlords don't have the best reputation. And as a New Yorker, it makes me feel happy and warm and fuzzy to know that they're willing to cooperate, especially with, merchant, with, whether it's restaurateurs or different merchants throughout. So, having them on your side is definitely, one of the perks. But I know the way you operate. Everyone is your friend, Peter. There's nobody that wouldn't do a favor for you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? In this business, you can't make enemies, right? I mean, you're in the hospitality business. Somebody doesn't like you. Like when I was running for mayor, I had to be very careful on my political views, because people will use that against you. They don't want to come into your restaurant if you're this or if you're that. So I try to make friends as much as I can and try to treat everybody like a VIP when they come through my door.
You definitely don't try to treat everybody. You do treat everybody like a VIP, and you're very successful at that. Now, I have a couple of questions for you. Why would you say that starting a restaurant during the pandemic was a smart move?
Well, you know what? It wasn't something that I planned. When we signed the lease in Soho, it was before COVID. So we already had a lease. I started constructing it. During construction, the United States, the world came to an end with this pandemic. So we stopped construction. We held back. We waited to see what was going on. And then I had no choice. I had to reopen up, because now indoor dining had been lifted. Landlord comes to me and says, well, Peter, we forgave all your back rent. The pandemic, now all the closures have been lifted. What are you going to do? And I looked at my partners and I said, you know what? Let's go for it. We have tremendous success in Midtown. We're not in the Soho area. The landlord has been more than willing to help us. And let's take our shot. But if I didn't have the experience and my partners and the name behind this, I probably would have held off. But I think with our experience, our landlord treating us properly, our brand name recognition in New York City, I think it was a no-brainer. At that point, we had to go through with it.
Well, it was a very smart move. And you know, when God gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And you have made more than lemonade. Talking about lemonade, what is your signature cocktail? Now, here's the thing, Peter. I'm going to ask you about your signature dish and your signature cocktail. You can only pick one of each. And I want you to, in the simplest of ingredients, tell people really quickly the home version of how simple yet how tasteful your dishes are. Not that you can replicate the same flavor, but I know for a fact that you cook clean, not heavy oils, and you know a lot of your dishes have a very visual display to them. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, so our concept dates back from 1926 when my partner's grandmother started Bice. Started in Milan in 1926. Some of the recipes that were started in 1926 are still on our menu today. Our most favorite dish from around the world in all the locations would probably be the veal Milanese. It's just a pounded veal. It's breaded, it's seasoned, and it's served with arugula and cherry tomatoes on the top. And then we do a side of roast potatoes. Simple dish, but people love it. And everywhere people go, they say they crave the veal Milanese at Bice. And we call it an elephant ear because it's so big, it actually looks like an elephant ear and it almost hangs off of the plate. So that would probably have to be our most popular dish.
Your
as far
portion,
as cocktails.
well, your portions are huge, by the way, but they're so good. And I'm just going to piggyback on that. My favorite is the octopus carpaccio. I never thought that I would love octopus carpaccio. I love tuna carpaccio. I'm not a big fan of salmon, but when I tried your octopus carpaccio, number one, I don't think that there's another restaurant in the city that does it as shaved, as thin, and it's not rubbery and it's tasty. So there's my endorsements to the octopus carpaccio.
Yeah, that's an appetizer that people really love. I adore it. I always recommend it to everybody. I believe I recommended it to you and got you hooked on it.
Hooked.
That's another one of our special dishes. And again, it's a simple dish, right? We get a fresh octopus in, we cook it to perfection, we season it, then we freeze it, and then once it's frozen, we run it really thin through a slicer. And then again, we add an arugula to it with some cherry tomatoes. We do a lemon dressing, and it's just simple. Not a lot of ingredients in it, but it's an amazing dish.
It's an amazing dish, not one that the average person could cook at home. And I always like to try dishes that I don't have the ability to make. And octopus is not easy. All right, moving on to your cocktail, signature cocktail. I always see you behind the bar. You're like Tom Cruise in the movie Cocktail most of the times when I've walked into the Midtown location. And you can even, not only cook and build things, but you can also make drinks. Go ahead. What's your signature?
Yeah, well, I wish I had the success story that Tom Cruise did. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation today. But, I do everything because you have to do everything, right? As a true restaurateur, you have to know how to cook. You have to know how to bartend. You have to know the protocol to go to a table. You have to be an all-around person or you're not considered a restaurateur. I have many drink cocktails that my favorite are. But one that sells really good in our restaurants is the spicy margarita. It has a kick to it. We do a sugar salt rim. We had a spicy jalapeno infused tequila that we actually make in house, and not the tequila obviously, but we had the infusion in house. We let it marinate for a few days, and then it's just your basic tequila, triple sec, lime juice, and my trick is a little splash of OJ. And I also like to hit it with a splash of 7-Up. People always say your margaritas are the best. My secret is I hit it with a little splash of 7-Up just before it goes to the table. Gives it that little bubbly sweetener to it.
All right. All right, good. That sounds like one of those side of tortilla chips and guacamole that you have to have with that. You're definitely going to have to make it for me when I come back. All right. I have another question for you here. So the Soho location, your teenage daughter, she's always in the restaurant. She's beautiful. Her name is Michaela. She's such an overachiever. What is her favorite dish on the menu?
You know what? Her favorite dish, ironically, is a dish that we don't have on the menu. And it's the penne alla vodka. We don't do that because that's not really Northern Milanese. It's in the Olive Gardens. It's in all the wannabe Italian locations. But when she comes to town, she always asks the chef if he can prepare her the penne alla vodka. So that's her favorite. And then she likes the pizza. Ever since she had our pizza, she can never eat pizza again because pizza is made with a different type of dough. It's soggy. Our pizza is crispy. You've had it before.
Yes.
So she no longer eats pizza. She only eats pizza, and she can only get it in Bice, Manhattan.
And it's much lighter and half the calories. Okay, talking about cocktails, do you know what the most popular cocktail in the world is?
The most popular cocktail in the world?
Yeah.
Let me see. If I had to guess, it would have to be probably something. Well, there could be two different types depending on where you are, but I'm going to have to go with, is it a martini or a cocktail?
The cocktail.
Or cocktail on the rocks?
Anything. Any cocktail in the world.
Screwdriver.
The old fashioned. The old fashioned
okay.
has long been the most popular cocktail worldwide, mainly because of its simplicity and mass appeal and availability of whiskey. The whiskey is a huge reason why.
But I can tell you, if you go to Nebraska, you're not going to have a lot of people ordering old fashions. I can guarantee you that the screwdriver sells more in Nebraska than the old fashioned.
Probably, but yes, probably. Now, what is the most banned spirit? Do you know this one?
Banned spirit?
Yeah.
Moonshine.
No, absinthe.
Really?
Absinthe has long been portrayed as a dangerous and even hallucinogenic and addictive substance. And the wormwood spirit is no more harmful than any other alcohol, but the presence of the thujun, which was once misunderstood. And there was a time when absinthe was used as a malaria drug. So yes, no bueno.
So, next time you come in, you and I are going to have absinthe on the rocks.
Oh, boy.
We're going to try it.
Yeah, well, exactly. All right, Peter, listen, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to come visit you in Soho this week. I'm going to bring the party on, and I can't wait to do an official launch party there. It's going to be very exciting this summer.
We're dying to have you here. We're dying to have you into Soho. You haven't been here yet. Friday, we're having a huge party here. We have a DJ, and whenever we do a DJ in Soho, we party till 2 a.m. So tell everybody
party
to come
till 2
down
a.m.
this Friday.
And I will. And you know what you're not aware of? That I'm going to send our producer Brian to the Palm Beach location and get him to look at the cooks behind the scenes, and we're going to feature one favorite dish, and we'll do like a 3-minute little food bump brought to you by Bice Cucina on A Moment of Zen.
I would love that. Sounds great, and you are the best, and I look forward to seeing you shortly.
Thank you. That was Peter Gramaris of Bice Cucina with his second location in Soho. This is Zen Sam's. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We will be back right after this.
Zen is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Bice Cucina in Midtown Manhattan, Revere Securities, and Helen Yarmack International. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, welcoming to the show, we have Daphne, Barak, and Bill Gunasti. Now, Daphne is an Israeli-American documentary filmmaker, a news innovator, film and television producer, geopolitical subject matter expert, and now author. Wow, that's impressive. She has made the biggest ratings in the US and covers stories worldwide for 2 decades. She is known for landing the big fish interviews and has spent the last 2 decades speaking with heads of state, royals, Hollywood stars, musicians, athletes, artists, and newsmakers. She has interviewed numerous personalities, including Michael Jackson's father, O.J. Simpson, Hillary Clinton, Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, Robert Mugabe, and in her career, she has produced several documentaries, including Jackie Chan, Showing Hong Kong for the Discovery Channel, Our Son Michael Jackson, The Tale of Two Sisters, which covers the lives and relationships between Liza Minnelli and Lorna Luft, Saving Amy, a documentary about deceased singer Amy Winehouse, and Coming Home with the Kennedys, a documentary about JFK and what chronicles Kennedy's trip to Ireland. Now, her other half, Erbil Gunasti, and I like to call him Bill, is a film and television producer, a geopolitical subject matter expert just like her, but specializing in socioeconomic military strategies. Based at the United Nations in New York, he represented 8 prime ministers of Turkey for 15 years. He is a brilliant guy. He speaks half a dozen languages. In addition, he's also a Trump delegate for the 2016 and 2020 elections, or was a delegate. Now, welcome to the show, beautiful people.
Hello, hello, hello. And look who is talking about beautiful people, right?
Great to see you.
Great to see you too. We were just having drinks the other night, and I welcomed you to New York, and I made it a priority to meet you. And you guys are a force to reckon with. You guys are a power couple, and you complement each other so beautifully. And you co-authored this book together. Now, Fighting for One America is Trump versus Hollywood. It's a documentary film that was released back in October 2020 that takes a giant step into making divided America into one America. Now, Daphne, you directed it and conducted interviews with 24 pro and anti-Trump Hollywood stars and musicians and rappers and other notable people, while Bill, you produced it, and you guys filmed it in 5 states and 10 cities during the pandemic and during the quarantine months. Tell me what the inspiration behind this was.
I think by now I sometimes laugh with people then when they start, any sentence they start somehow ends up with Trump. And I said, he's a friend of mine, but he's not the sun and the world is not turning around him. And it looks like any subject today, then it's just the country is divided into completely 2 different Americas. One which thinks that Trump won, and Biden is victory is faked. The other one thinks no, that Trump is crazy and lunatic, and Biden won legally. And it's divided about any subject. And when we come to Hollywood, as you know, because you are an actress as well, Hollywood is definitely anti-Trump. And Bill and I happen to be good friends of John Voight and others, and we just decided to talk to them and really hear their side. How is it to be a Trump supporter, a vocal Trump supporter during such a divided period? And of course, meanwhile, George Floyd tragedy happened, and beside talking to people who are anti-Trump, we decided also to talk to some known rappers who definitely were anti-Trump. And it became a very historical documentary, which the book, Struggling for One America, Trump versus Hollywood, is really documenting the behind the scene and the conversation between us and Donald Trump after the filming.
Daphne and Bill, this is book number 8 attributed to both of you as authors, and it's your 7th book, Daphne, and your 4th, Bill. You're both very impressive people. Bill, who would you say is more competitive in the house?
She is.
Do you think? Now this marriage is not only beautiful, well, marriage of 2 people. This partnership is not only beautiful and inspirational. You guys are best friends and so stunning together. And you guys decided to really go down the path of looking under the hood. And we know that there's a huge cancel culture in Hollywood, and the stigma of, if you are a Republican, you may or may not get canceled overnight, as Matthew McConaughey had said. Now, this book is a culmination of a documentary project involving Donald Trump, which is was the superpower of the world at one point, and Hollywood stars and entertainers. Now, there are a lot of people on the liberal left that absolutely, condescend, patronize, and are arrogant toward the other 50%. What did you realize, Daphne, as the interviewer of the stars in this documentary? Walk us through in real time what transpired as you were speaking to both sides.
So first of all, I want to acknowledge also that some of our friends in Hollywood, which are usually very happy to have lunch or dinner with us or even being interviewed by me, really shied away because They are probably Republicans, conservatives, but they were so scared to say that they support Donald Trump. And you are acting right now in an upcoming movie with Mel Gibson. We know him as well. I spoke with Mel. We text messages, and he was scared to be part of this project. He said, like, why would I? I mean, let's have breakfast, whatever, but I don't want to. I mean, what's there? Another big star, and I'm describing it in the book, "Struggling for One America: Trump versus Hollywood." Sylvester Stallone, he and Avi Lerner and us are friendly, and Sylvester and I had several conversations. He didn't say we didn't want to be part of it, but he started to say, well, why won't we do it next week? Why don't we do it next weekend? Why? And after a while, Avi Lerner is one of the mega producers in Hollywood, and his partner, who is part of Trump versus Hollywood, Fighting for One America, and the book Struggling for One America. And I realized that he just, because we are all friends, he didn't want to say no. But basically, if he said, I support Trump, he would lose, many supporters. If he would say he didn't, it wouldn't be, he would lose the other one. So there's so the cancel culture is really bad. But I also realized something very important then, that some of the rappers that I asked them, why won't we just talk to Donald Trump and try to start a conversation? Some of them said yes, and they are part of Struggling for One America, Trump versus Hollywood, and part of the documentary. But last moment before we arranged a telephone conversation between me and Donald Trump, which I hosted some of them, a couple of them just backed up. And they just said that. So basically, they have their own pressure then that if they reach out to the other side, definitely to Donald Trump, they would canceled. Be very, very, yeah, exactly. They would be canceling their community. Exactly. You're on the money.
Well, that's a sad message, because I don't think that anybody should be canceled based on religion, race, or politics. And that's just shows us how Hollywood is perhaps oversaturated. And I think that the movement of this whole liberal left has almost taken a very divided toll. Not in the sense that over here, and it's a great comparison here. You have two White Houses, but you also have two levels of Hollywood almost, and one plays into the other, and it's kind of serving two masters, and it's really impossible. So that's why I think politics should be left out. And we're going to transition to Amy Winehouse. We'll be right back after this with Daphne, Barak, and Bill Gunasti's incredible story about Amy and what inspired the documentary. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. Stay tuned.
Zen is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Bice Cucina in Midtown Manhattan, Revere Securities, and Helen Yarmack International. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now joining us in this interview, we are still talking to Daphne, Barak, and Bill Gunasti, and we're going to be talking about Amy Winehouse. Now, Amy was an English singer and songwriter known for her deep, expressive contralto vocals and her eclectic mix of musical genres, including soul, rhythm and blues, and jazz. But sadly, she was plagued by drug and alcohol addiction. She died of alcohol poisoning on the 23rd of July back in 2011 at the age of 27. And after her death, Back to Black, which is my absolute favorite album in the world, temporarily became the UK's best-selling album of the 21st century. Now, Daphne is well known for her first book, Saving Amy. And it is about the 6 months that you and Bill spent with Amy Winehouse and her parents. And that was 3 years before Amy's passing. Bill, tell us about the relationship that Daphne had with Amy Winehouse from your point of view.
Well, it was a straight relationship. She asked, Amy asked Daphne to meet. And Daphne said, I will not meet with you until you leave the hospital. Because as far as Erbil can say, which I was at the hospital talking to her, she was okay. She wasn't supposed to be in the hospital. So she was incarcerated there by her handlers, in a sense. So Daphne said, get out of the hospital, I'll meet you. That's why Amy went to St. Lucia. Amy did not go St. Lucia for spa or rehabilitation, this, that. She went there because Daphne told her so. And she came back from St. Lucia only 2 weeks after Daphne visited her after 4 months in St. Lucia for a week. And there the encounter took place, and Daphne learned the truth about Amy Winehouse. The truth was that she was fried brain. She could not do the third album. She was in desperate shape. She was not even able to speak other than to toddlers. This was the case. And this is buried. And like on all opioid cases in America and everywhere else, the families and surrounding people hide these things. This is the problem. This is what Donald Trump talked about. This is part of the struggle in America too, in a sense. We made a movie about a documentary about struggle in America, but struggling issue was with Amy Winehouse issue. So that's the relationship, direct relationship. She affected life directly.
Yes, and Amy was quoted in People magazine saying, only Daphne Barak can explain my complicated life. And when the book was released in London back in 2009, Daphne, this complicated life that she had, and please give us a little bit of insight, because your book is absolutely incredible, and everybody who's interested in opioid addiction and understanding the dark nature of where a lot of her talent came from needs to read this book, and you do such a great job. Please give us a little bit of insight on that.
So first of all, Zen, first of all, thank you. And I want to say that after interviewing Michael Jackson and his parents, and Liza Minnelli and her sister, and Eric Clapton, which thanks God managed to get out of this disease, I realized that addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the result. It's the outcome. The problem is usually dysfunctional families or lots of secrets and lies and denial and refusal to go to a real rehab, real family therapies that, oh my God, so many secrets will go out, but then really there's a chance to get out of this terrible disease. So what I found out, first of all, we started the film with Mitch and with Janice, the two parents, and we found out that none of this, there's no one set of relationship like ex-wife and husband, current wife and husband, the brother and mother and daughter, father and daughter, which is the headline, which is what you and I would consider normal or healthy. And there was a denial about it, and nobody talked about it. That's why we called the book and the Sunday Time Diary, which actually is then it extended to a book, Saving Amy, because everybody says, oh, Mitch said I cannot talk about why I cannot have a job and I cannot continue to be a cab driver because I'm saving Amy. And his ex-wife said I cannot talk about how hurt I am that he left me to for his secretary years ago because Amy's dying. We're saving Amy. So that was really sarcastic.
Now, we have less than 2 minutes left, and everybody should definitely check that out, Saving Amy. You also have a website, which is kind of like your portal where your projects and Bill projects kind of merge and coincide, and the website is called fightingfor1america.com, and it's fighting the number 4 and 1america.com. And over there, you guys could find all of the books that both Bill and Daphne have published, all the movies and the documentaries that they have produced and directed, and more importantly, everything that they have coming up, because they are always in the spotlight. They are VIP of sorts, but they also are a friend to numerous people in this world who always have amazing things to say. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure talking with the two of you.
Thank you, really.
Great to be here.
You're a pleasure.
You guys are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. That was Daphne Barak and Bill Gunasti. Please check them out, fightingfor1america.com. We'll be right back after this.
Zen is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Bice Cucina in Midtown Manhattan, Revere Securities, and Helen Yarmack International. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, what a treat, because up next we have Olympian Veronica Toro Arana, who's going to be joining us live from Tokyo. Now, exactly how did this Stanford med student become Puerto Rico's first female rower in the Tokyo Olympics? Well, nearly 20 years ago, before this first of sorts, she stepped to the plate on an all-boys Little League baseball team as a 6-year-old. She grew up in San Juan. Whether on the baseball field or in the classroom, she approached all challenges with determination. Now she's become the first Puerto Rican rower to compete in the Olympics in 33 years. And it's kind of a thing where rowing picked her, she says. She wouldn't describe herself as a natural athlete nor ever dreamed of becoming an Olympian as a child. But from baseball to ballet to volleyball, she dabbled in a little bit of everything competitive. And it's this attitude that propelled her to the pinnacle of Puerto Rican rowing. Now, wait, it gets better. This is all transpiring while she's on a pre-medical track at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and medical school at Stanford. Wow and wow. I'm so excited to be chatting with you. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that really kind introduction, and thank you for having me on the show.
You are amazing. So congratulations, first of all, because you have made it. How does it feel? You're in Tokyo right now. Tell us what the mood is like.
Wow, it's been incredible. It's been incredible to be here. I've been here for over a week now, and it's amazing. My first competition was on the 23rd, and that feeling of an Olympic debut, I feel like, is really unparalleled. You know, it was amazing. And I did great in my first race. I made it straight through into the quarterfinals, and all the messages and all the warmth that I received from Puerto Rico. I was the first athlete to compete from the delegation because rowing started even before the inaugural ceremony. And I mean, I think it's all that I wanted it to be and more. You know, it's been great to be here.
So tell the audience, and obviously you are an athlete, you're there, you've traveled. How long are you going to be in Tokyo? And you were there representing Puerto Rico, correct?
Yes.
How is that? How many total U.S. Athletes have been sent to Tokyo?
From the U.S., I have no idea. But from Puerto Rico, our delegation is 37 athletes, plus Purdy, who's a horse, because we have the equestrian team. So that's the total number of participants that we have from Puerto Rico. Yes.
I believe the U.S. is hovering closer to the 600 plus
they
athletes.
Yes, they have hundreds of athletes. They have a whole building to themselves.
They do, but so proud to represent Puerto Rico, and I'm so glad that you're on the show. Now tell us how this all started, because you decided to postpone medical school, and this is a twist of fate. This is not something that you had, planned for yourself. Tell us how this all transpired and how you've gotten to where you are.
Yeah. So like you said, I dabbled in a lot of different sports when I was growing up. And this is because I have a sibling, a brother who's like 13 months younger than I. So I always stuck with ballet. I did ballet for 11 years since I was 3, but I dabbled in a bunch of sports. And then when I realized I was kind of too big to keep dancing, I stopped dancing ballet when I was 13, and I started playing volleyball both in and out of school. And I also played softball, a little bit of basketball, but I didn't really appreciate contact sports. And so when I first got to MIT, I wanted to continue doing something athletic of the sort. And I considered maybe playing volleyball, but the position I had played when I was in Puerto Rico, which was, I was the middle blocker. I was really tall in Puerto Rico, but I wasn't tall to play volleyball in the United States.
You're 5'10". You're 5'10"?
Yeah, I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10", but the people in my freshman class at MIT who played my position were like 6'3" and 6'5". So that wasn't happening. So I kind of started exploring. And there was some teaching assistant that I had in a class that suggested that I maybe should try rowing. And they were also very like insistent on finding people at the athletics fair my freshman year. And so I gave it a try. I think what they thought was good in me was that at the time I was really skinny, and there's a category in rowing that's for lightweight rowing, and it's under 130 pounds. And so now I'm not even close to that. But when I started rowing, I was like a little over 130 pounds, maybe because I had been a model for a couple of years while I was in high school as well. And so I started rowing as a lightweight rower at MIT, and I did it for a whole year.
So
and I guess
you demonstrated that you had the raw power necessary to be a successful rower by pulling a lot on the ergometer, which is the indoor rowing machine. So let's take us from that point on. Now, you at the beginning of your experience, you said that you didn't feel like you were being taken as seriously as your male counterparts were. Why did you feel that?
So that comes back to, so at MIT I rowed in a all women's team, correct? But then after my freshman year, I met the Puerto Rico Rowing Federation in the summer, and they had a coach at the time, and they were training in Condado in the lagoon, and they had only guys training at the time. And so I kind of like went to check it out, see what was up. I was doing a medical internship in Puerto Rico that summer. And so I started training with them, with what was the national team at the time. And I think just the mere fact that they were locals and they had been with the coach for a while, and that they were all guys, and I had just shown up, and like, I think at the beginning was showing up to practice, and maybe I felt like the coach didn't like expect that much from me. This was the coach in Puerto Rico. Maybe because
you were a girl.
I thought because I was a girl. So I went to the president of the federation at the time, and I told him, I want this coach to take me seriously. If I'm showing up here at like 6 a.m. in the morning every day, I want this to like count. And that's how it all started with Puerto Rico. And I learned about the opportunities of being able to represent the island in female rowing. And so I don't know, I fell in love with it, and I went back to MIT. I switched from being a lightweight rower to an open weight rower, because at this point, all of that summer, with all that training, I gained some muscle, and I wasn't able to make the cut anymore. So that was the summer of 2013. And I went back to MIT, joined a different team, and then I kind of started training on my own in the afternoons with the hope of competing for Puerto Rico starting 2014 in the Central American Caribbean Games.
Wow, that's incredible. So you have a very rigorous schedule. What is your workout schedule and your workout routine look like? And exactly what are you eating right now? That's what I want to know.
So, I mean, right now we're obviously training less because we're already here. But leading up to here, I spent from anywhere from like 5 to 7 hours training every day, at least like 3 hours on the water, sometimes like second practice on the ergometer in the afternoon in the gym, or cycling, or both, or running. We did a lot of running as well. And then in terms of eating, I just try to eat as much as possible. It's hard for me actually to eat enough. I just want to eat as many calories as possible.
I can't imagine, because you are putting in so many hours and burning so many calories and representing a lot. And I can't imagine that, between being in a different country with all of the COVID restrictions. Now, what is Tokyo like with respect to these COVID regulations?
Yeah, so it's very different. I think it's very different from any other Olympics. I mean, yeah, we're all wearing masks, but also there's absolutely no one cheering in the crowd. Like there's no one in the crowd, there's like maybe a few coaches, people from the federation or whatever who like cheer you on, but there's the stadium is empty, you know, and
well,
I think
I can assure you everybody's watching, so I think you're okay. We all know you're there.
I think these are the Olympics for the TV, you know, and I think the most evident part of that was the opening ceremony where like we didn't really like I mean I did the walking with the delegation in the ceremony, but you know, us being there, it didn't really feel like, you know, like this amazing, like opening ceremony that always feels, it kind of just felt like it was a show put on for the TV. And
which
us
it was.
Standing there, we didn't, yeah, exactly. For us standing there wasn't really much, you know, there wasn't a crowd.
You know what? We're definitely we're definitely not going to poo-poo the Olympics because it's still an incredible opportunity and you're there. But whether the people are there or not, in spirit, we're all here, you know, we're rooting for you from home. And the most important thing is that you have traveled all over the world. You have trained in many different places. I read that you trained in Italy. You've trained in Sabaudia, was that where you are?
Sabaudia, yeah, in Italy.
Sabaudia, Italy. And you have been mentored by these incredible rowers, and they have all stood by you, which is pretty amazing. Tell us where you see yourself after the Olympics, because this is a huge chapter for you. And if you can do one thing in your next chapter, what would it be if you are not going to continue to row?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I'm in the middle of medical school. I put a stop on that, to train for the Olympics. So I still have 1.5 years, to go in Stanford Medical School. So, right after this, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go complete my MD, and apply into residency. I hope to get into a cardiothoracic surgery residency program, hopefully at Stanford, but we'll see. And in the meantime, I think, you know, I thought about stopping rowing, but I think it's going to be hard. You know, I think I'm not going to be training at this level anymore, but I am really excited for what the future of rowing in Puerto Rico could look like. And I am currently working with another girl who actually rows for MIT, and I want to see her maybe become the next me, maybe not. It's up to her, of course, but I would like to row with her at least in the next Central American Caribbean Games, which will happen in 2023, to put my little grain of salt in like the direction to see if I can leave a mark in rowing,
yes, you're going to leave a legacy. I think you are meant to mentor, and I know that you want to make water sports more accessible in Puerto Rico, and you want the nation to develop more homegrown talent. And I know that you regularly keep tabs on up and coming women in the Puerto Rican rowing community. So I'm glad that you said this, because you could now pave the way for other women, because you are clearly somebody that a lot of athletes could and will look up to, men and women alike. And it's been an incredible opportunity to have you. I know that you are piping in from Tokyo, and there's a time difference, and Thursday is your big day. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such an honor talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to speak with you.
Without a doubt. Guys, what an incredible interview. We are going to be saying goodbye to our famous Puerto Rican rower, Veronica Toro. She's at Tokyo currently right now, representing Puerto Rico as the first female rower in nearly 33 years to make it this far. You're listening to A Moment of Zen. I'm your host, Zen Sams, on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
Zen is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Bice Cucina in Midtown Manhattan, Revere Securities, and Helen Yarmack International. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
We are at the very end of our date, my friends, and that's a wrap. Thank you for being loyal listeners. Many of you have already texted me for collaborations, and I love it. Keep those texts coming. You can text feature me or collaboration to 917 575-2321. Remember to join me right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. or go to 710wr.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen to watch fully uploaded episodes. Remember to tune back in next Saturday at 9 p.m. I have an amazing and exciting lineup of guests. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It has been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Romulus Entertainment, Bice Cucina, Midtown, and Soho, Helen Yarmack International, Revere Securities, and the newly joined Tempest, a Burkan World project. Till next week, and remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.